Hello and welcome to another episode of Mind Map. Today's topic of discussion is Enforcement Directorate, that is ED. First of all, we will discuss about introduction and background of the topic. Then we will discuss about its functions, organizational structure, criticism, way forward and practice question. First of all, let's discuss about the Enforcement Directorate. Enforcement Directorate or ED is the financial watchdog of India. It is a law enforcement and economic intelligence agency of the Government of India responsible for enforcing economic laws and fighting economic crime in India. It works under the Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance. Its background and history. The origins of the Enforcement Directorate can be traced back to the Enforcement Unit, which was set up in the Department of Economic Affairs in 1956 for handling exchange control laws violations under the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act 1947. The Foreign Exchange Regulation Act or FERA was overhauled in 1973, which increased the need for a separate agency to manage its enforcement. Thus, the Enforcement Directorate as a separate entity came into being in 1976. In 1999, the Government of India replaced FERA with a more liberal Foreign Exchange Management Act, that is FEMA. In 2002, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act or PMLA was enacted, widening the scope of the ED's responsibilities. Over the years, the ED has emerged as a key agency in the battle against economic offences. With the rise in global transactions and the international nature of many financial crimes, the ED's role has expanded beyond India's borders. Now moving on to its functions. The statutory functions of the Directorate include enforcement of following acts. First is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. It is a criminal law enacted to prevent money laundering and to provide for confiscation of property derived from or involved in money laundering and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Second is the Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. It is a civil law enacted to consolidate and amend the laws relating to facilitate external trade and payments and to promote the orderly development and maintenance of foreign exchange market in India. The Fugitive Economic Offenders Act 2018. This law was enacted to deter economic offenders from evading the process of Indian law by remaining outside the jurisdiction of Indian courts. The Foreign Exchange Regulation Act 1973. The main functions under the repealed FERA are to adjudicate the show cause notices issued under the said Act up to 31st May 2002 for the alleged contraventions of the Act, which may result in imposition of penalties, and to pursue prosecutions launched under FERA in the concerned courts. Sponsoring agency under COFEPOSA. Under the Conservation of Foreign Exchange and Prevention of Smuggling Activities Act 1974, that is COFEPOSA, this Directorate is empowered to sponsor cases of preventive detention with regard to contraventions of FEMA. Now let's have a look at its organizational structure. The Directorate of Enforcement with its headquarters at New Delhi is headed by the Director of Enforcement. There are 5 regional offices at Mumbai, Chennai, Chandigarh, Kolkata and Delhi, headed by Special Directors of Enforcement. The Directorate has 10 zonal offices, each of which is headed by a Deputy Director, and 11 sub-zonal offices, each of which is headed by an Assistant Director. The Director of ED is appointed under Section 25 of the CVC Act 2003. Tenure of ED Director, original tenure is 2 years, and the central government has amended the CVC Act of 2003 and the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946 to grant 3 extensions in the tenure. However, no further extension can be granted after the completion of a period of 5 years in total, including the period mentioned in the initial appointment. Now moving on to criticism. First is lack of accountability. One of the primary criticisms against the ED is its perceived lack of accountability. Critics argue that the agency operates with a degree of autonomy that can lead to arbitrary actions and misuse of power. Concerns have been raised about the absence of robust oversight mechanisms, which could potentially lead to abuses of authority. Political interference. The ED has often been accused of being influenced by political considerations. Some claim that the agency is used as a tool for political vendettas, targeting individuals or entities associated with opposition parties. This perception undermines the agency's credibility and impartiality. Delayed investigations and legal proceedings. Critics point to the slow pace of investigations and legal proceedings conducted by the ED. Lengthy investigations can lead to undue harassment of individuals or businesses, impacting their reputation and operations, even if they are eventually cleared of wrongdoing. Use of preventive detention provisions. The ED can invoke preventive detention provisions under the PMLA, which allow for the arrest and detention of individuals without formal charges being filed. Critics argue that these provisions can be misused, leading to unjustified arrest and prolonged detention. Overreach and draconian powers. Critics contend that a ED is often given broad and draconian powers, including the ability to seize assets before a trial is concluded. This can lead to the freezing of assets and financial hardships for individuals or entities without due process. Inadequate safeguards for individuals' rights. Concerns have been raised about the ED's approach to protecting the rights of individuals during investigations. Critics argue that individuals can be subjected to coercive tactics, including intimidation and harassment, which may violate their rights. And limited focus on economic crimes. Some argue that the ED's priorities may not always align with the most significant economic crimes. Critics suggest that the agency might disproportionately focus on high-profile cases while potentially neglecting other equally important matters. Now lastly, let's discuss about the way forward. To maintain impartiality of the ED, its transparency should be ensured. ED should be made as an independent agency by taking legislative, executive, or by enforcing the judgments of the Supreme Court. ED should not be allowed to function as a puppet in the hands of the ruling party. It should be ensured that the wide powers in the hands of the Enforcement Directorate should not be misused. Now it's time for the practice questions. First of all, prelims-based question. Which ministry does the Enforcement Directorate operate under? Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Personnel, or none of the above? And now mains practice. Discuss the role and functions of ED in prevention of money laundering in India. So that's all for today. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for watching.